So here we are again. We've just outside St Mary's Church, Church of Ireland here in Tipperary Town. As part of Heritage Week, we're doing some virtual tours for the Tipperary Town Heritage Group, based in Dalton House, Emmett Street in Tipperary Town. This is Mike O'Mara. He's a member of our Heritage Group, and he's going to give us a little tour now of some of the historic aspects inside the church. So if you come this way, folks.
If we just look up first before we go in, we can actually see the date of 1832 when this church was built. And at the time it was built, there was a Church of Ireland population of 600 within the Tipperary area. So coming in, folks, we have to observe hand hygiene.
The germ left alive in our hands now today.
Keeping with the regulations and everything, we've had to space out the church for things like that.
Can you, before we go into the church, can you explain something a little bit about this very interesting looking piece here?
This
coat of arms at the bottom.
Well, I don't know much about the actual lady, but in relation to Lord Baron Massey, I know very little about the actual lady herself, but we do have an awful lot of plaques within the church that have appeared literally over time. And it's sad to see that the rain has been coming in. We've got problems with the roof, and you can see some of this is starting to crack.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to make out. It's the same if I just move this for a second. You can see the same things been happening.
Okay.
With this one.
Yeah. Like,
and here's again Lord Baron Massey. So the Massey family had quite.
And would they have been connected with the Massey?
Up in the Glen.
What there was another? Was there? In Limerick, there would have been a large Massey.
Very possible.
Like there's the Massey Plaza and stuff like that. There with the
I think in some way, they can. Okay. So here we go. We're entering into St Mary's. Oh, look at that! Just for you, the bell is ringing. Wasn't that a marvellous trick I managed to perform? The bell ringing to greet us. Yeah. Well, this is St Mary's Church of Ireland. The pews, from what I have made out, were the original ones from 1832.
Wow.
So they're the original pews. There's two main things that people react to when they come in here. You can see the stained glass window. It's the nativity scene, so we like to say we have Christmas every day in St Mary's. But it is actually a memorial to three members of the same family who died within 6 months of each other.
Oh, wow.
One was a chap called Robert Bell, who was one of the founder members of the Rosanna Tennis Club.
Right.
His brother, Lieutenant Colonel Lyle, and Robert Bell's father, Robert Bell, Captain Bell, died on the first day of the Battle of the Somme. His brother-in-law, Colonel Lyle, died about 4 days after the Battle of the Somme, and Captain Bell's father died a few months later, so they all happened within 6 months of each other.
Okay.
The window was commissioned by Colonel Lyle's widow, and it was done by a gentleman called A.J. Davis from the Birmingham School of Art. 2 years ago, we had a tour from a tour group in England called Sacred Spaces and Sacred Sites, and they were going around Ireland looking at old churches and stained glass windows in particular. And the gentleman he's written books about stained glass window, reliably told me that this is the only stained glass window in Ireland, to his knowledge, done by this particular artist, A.J. Davis. So in that sense, it is kind of quite priceless.
On a military aspect, I'm drawn to this this here behind, just on the wall here.
Yeah.
Was this the famous Abbey Boys?
Yes, I mean a lot of people don't realise that the Abbey School was once a Protestant boarding school, and the boys actually had to come to church here on a Sunday. And this is a plaque to remember the boys who actually died in the Great War from the school. Now, in 2016, it was the 100th anniversary of the war, and the Abbey School commemorated it by unveiling their own kind of little plaque, and they gave me a small version of it, which I can show you.
Oh, perfect.
When we get up to here. The sad thing also on here, where is he? One, he hadn't quite made it as a flight cadet, this chap here.
Okay.
He was killed in a crash. His plane crashed.
Oh,
yeah, sadly. And this person here, Foley, he was a lieutenant in the Leinster Regiment. When the boys came to church, they sat on the pews to the right of the pulpits, and you can see where they've carved their names. And Mr. Foley has his name carved on the pew, which we will see.
We will have to have a look at that. Yes.
These black pipes that you see running up and down the side of the church was the original heating system. It's now used by, obviously, it's oil, but it was, I'm not too sure of the intricate workings of it. I'm no
Was it water that was
I think it was water, because there was, underneath where that two plaques are, there used to be a stove.
Okay.
And it used to heat the water, and the water was then released.
Okay, very good.
And then you got heating. If we just go a bit further down here, you mentioned, we have a little bit of graffiti in the church. I don't know whether you will pick this up, but there's a gentleman just over here. His name, you have to catch it right in the light. His name is Frederick W. Ryan, October 1891.
My God.
Now, if I catch him, he's in big trouble. But that's not the only thing. Quite often, as we go through the pews, you'll see the initials FWR appearing. And we actually think he was a soldier, because the soldiers had to come to parade here as well.
Yes, of course.
Now, if we go up to what we call the Abbey pews.
This is where the schoolboys sat.
Just drop down. So if you press the stand at the back here.
Okay.
I forgot to bring the torch in, but I don't know if you can make it. There's a Richard Kavanagh there, but underneath there you will see the name A.M. Foley.
Okay. And that's the lad that was up on the plaque below the back of the church.
Yeah, I don't know whether you can actually make it out or not. And this is the smaller version of what the Abbey School actually put up themselves. They have a larger one in the school, so they gave us this small one to go with the
very nice
information that we have.
I see you have the plaque from...
Yeah, that's showing on there.
Yeah.
So this is actually in the Abbey School. A couple of interesting facts here. There was a pupil called Hector Anderson, and he applied for a scholarship to Tipperary Grammar School, and he became a chaplain in the Church of England at Sandringham. And this is his here, Hector the Rector, they like to call him. Now, I only found this out a few months ago. The bishop next to him is Bishop Pike. I don't think of Dad's army, but don't tell him Pike. But this is Bishop Pike, who was also a pupil at the Abbey School.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I didn't know that until a few months back. We have odds and ends around the church. This here, and we'll probably put this on loan up at Dalton's Heritage House, so be careful with this. This is the charter. A lot of people don't realise, but there was an actual Church of Ireland cathedral in Emily. And this is the charter that established the actual cathedral. Now, it was just left on a wall, and I rescued it.
Yeah, it's gone faded.
It's gone faded. But close up here, you can actually make out a date, like 1840-something. I don't know whether you can see that, folks. But we'll loan that up to Dolphins. It'll be better up there than it is down here doing nothing. And the organ behind us this is the original organ from the church, and it was hand pumped. There's a bellows. The bellows is actually still in there, and in the little room here at the side, you can still see the handle that the boys used to pump the bellows with. Oh. It's our cleaning cupboard.
Yeah.
But while the boys were in there, they started scratching their names on the wall and on the doors. So you can actually see the names of the boys and the dates from long ago. Maybe you might need to do that a little bit later when we've got to talk.
Graffiti has been around a long time,
yeah.
Yes, hasn't it?
The oldest...
Bellow.
So it's the original portal. We had two ministers here by the name of Bell, and by the name of Robert Bell as well. And I'm fortunate enough to have a picture of this one here. And this is him. Mm-hmm. Now, what was interesting with this was that people who knew him contributed to the purchase of a Bible to go on here and this. And we're fortunate that we've still got the Bible.
You still have the Bible?
Yeah.
So what year is on this Bible then?
1883. Now, also, the interesting thing is I had some people in a couple of weeks ago just looking around. It lists the names of the donors, and some of the families are still in the area.
Oh, interesting.
And also, you found that, well, I don't know whereabouts it is, but in here we do have some, there it is. Proof that this was a really old Bible used. This was the candles which kind of burnt some of the pages. So you can actually see the proof of that. So we have this Bible to commemorate that, Robert Bell, but also, I mentioned the window.
Yes.
This Bible is over 100 years old. And this was presented by Charlotte and Elaine Bell, which were the family members of Robert Bell.
It says here December 1916.
Yeah, that's when it took place.
Yeah.
We have a few unusual connections in this church. If I said Ned Kelly, what comes to mind? Australian outlaw with his tins and everything. Well, the policeman who caught him was from Tipperary Town, and he was actually baptised in this church. And his father is actually buried in the grounds outside. So that's a very unusual connection we've got to Australia and Ned Kelly.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing that happened here in 1752 was a kidnapping in the old church, not this one, but the church was outside, where a lady called Miss Susanna Grove was forcibly taken from the church during divine service by the thug Hugh O'Grady from Limerick.
The tug.
The tug. and there's actual newspapers of the time putting out rewards for this, and the priest married them, and the priest was arrested for marrying them because she was kidnapped. And you get a description of what went on during the service. And what makes me laugh is, for some reason, the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland was actually here in the church, worshipping at the time. And he was so impressed of how the minister was trying to deal with these vagabonds, because they quickly barricaded the doors. But he was so impressed by how he dealt with it that he promoted the minister's son to the rank of captain in the army.
Okay.
most unusual. Unfortunately, our bell tower is really out of action. Okay. The church, as I said, it used to be a very large church-owned community. That's faded away now, but the church is still very much a community resource. For a few years now, we didn't do it last year, we've had what we call a Christmas tree festival, and our group, we've put together like a Christmas tree, and we've had at the stage maybe 40 Christmas trees packed into here. It's also used by concerts, for various concerts. The ONE, Organisation of National Ex-Servicemen, they still have their services here. If anybody wants to get married here, they can do. If you zoom right in on the right-hand corner, I don't know whether you can, of the window, you can actually, very small on the bottom, it tells you the actual name of the artist, A.J. Davies. It is quite, whether they can pick it up. Now, I don't know why it's all been blackened at the bottom. I have no idea what happened there. Maybe they took wrong measurements. It's a very peaceful place.
It is that.
plaque here which is of interest.
This is from 1972, I see.
Yeah, I mean, we're firm believers in all churches should work together. And this commemorates the first ecumenical service that took place between St Mary's and St Michael's.
Oh, very nice.
And it was our minister, and that was the Catholic priest, and we had somebody from Glenstall Abbey. I'll show you now. Do you want to go in the cupboard? We'll come back to the cupboard at one stage. I'll just show you the gas links now.
I'd be terrified to go into the cupboard.
You mentioned the church at one stage, it was lit by gas.
Okay.
And the best example is here. Through the central pipes, a very thin pipe running. You have to look quite closely to see it. If I can come down here, there's an actual, between the pipes, this is the gas pipe, this one here, and which is here, and in certain parts of the churches, these were placed. And I call this a sconce. So there's this one here, there's the remains of one over there, and that is kind of what it looked like.
So basically, they were lit directly from the gas line.
Yes.
That was coming up.
Yeah. There'd be some connection. Maybe that it would be something like that. I'm not sure which way it went. It could be that way or straight up. But somebody had to come to the church to light the lamps before church started. It's the same with the organ, because you had to pump the organ.
Pump it up beforehand. Yeah.
You had to have people coming in, and no wonder the young lads had strong muscles. So basically this is St Mary's.
And Michael, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
This will be going onto our heritage page later on. Plus, this will be uploaded onto the National Heritage website for National Heritage Week. And hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.